I never imagined that a simple misunderstanding with a woman named Karen could lead to a life-threatening situation. It all started when Karen throws away my EpiPen because it looks like a taser, then caused me to get hospitalized. As the paramedics fought to save my life, little did I know that Karen's reckless act would set off a chain of events that would forever change my perception of safety. Here's how it all went down. I've always believed that the universe has a twisted sense of humor, and today it seemed keen on proving me right. The morning had started like any other. I woke up, grabbed a quick breakfast, and decided to take my lunch to the park. It was a perfect spot, a bench by the lake where the city seemed a million miles away. That bench was my sanctuary, my place to escape the daily grind and enjoy the simple act of being. Little did I know, it was also the stage for today's absurd drama, starring none other than Karen, the human storm cloud. As I sat there, my EpiPen beside me, I savored each bite of my peanut butter sandwich, lost in the tranquility of the moment. Karen was there, as usual, with her perpetual frown, casting bread to the ducks like she was performing some sort of penance. The serenity of the afternoon was abruptly shattered when she turned her gaze upon me. "You're trying to tase me!" Karen's voice was a piercing siren that cut through the calm. I blinked, utterly confused as she lunged for my EpiPen, her fingers wrapping around it with the conviction of the misled. "It's my EpiPen?" I protested, trying to inject some reason into the situation, but it was like trying to calm a tornado with a whisper. "You're not fooling anyone!" she spat out, her eyes wild with a fervor that I had only read about in stories of witch hunts and inquisitions. Before I could stop her, she flung my EpiPen into the lake, where it sank quickly, the ripples mocking me with their gentle undulations. A sense of dread washed over me as I felt my throat begin to itch, the familiar harbinger of my peanut allergy. "I need that!" I cried out, my voice laced with desperation. "You should have thought about that before you decided to bring a weapon to the park," Karen retorted, her tone righteous and unapologetic. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers clumsy, as the first tendrils of panic set in. "I need an ambulance!" I managed to gasp into the receiver, my body starting to betray me, my breath coming in short, labored gasps. Karen stood over me, a spectator to my distress, unmoved by the gravity of what she had done. "You shouldn't have tried to scare me with your taser," she said coldly, as if she had administered some kind of justice. The paramedics arrived in a blur of urgency, their voices a distant thunder as they worked to keep me from slipping away. I was vaguely aware of the oxygen mask being pressed to my face, the sting of a needle, and then the world went dark. When I came to, I was in the stark white cocoon of a hospital room, the beeping of machines playing a disjointed symphony. A police officer stood at my bedside, his expression a mix of concern and disbelief. "We've retrieved your EpiPen," he said, placing a sealed evidence bag on the small table beside me. "And the woman, she's been detained." I could only nod, my body still reeling from the onslaught of medication and the close brush with mortality. Karen's actions had ricocheted through my life with the subtlety of a sledgehammer, leaving me to pick up the pieces. "And the woman?" I asked hoarsely. "She's facing charges, reckless endangerment at the least," the officer replied. "You're lucky to be alive." That was the kicker, wasn't it? Luck. It shouldn't come down to luck, not with something as manageable as an allergy. But today, my life had hinged on the whims of a woman who saw danger in a life-saving device. As the hospital room settled into a quiet rhythm, the last rays of sunlight filtering through the blinds, I couldn't shake the image of my EpiPen sinking into the depths of the lake. It was a chilling reminder of how fragile our safety nets could be, how quickly they could be snatched away by ignorance and fear. There was no happy ending to this tale. I was alive, yes, but at what cost? As I lay there, a jumble of IV lines and monitors, I realized that the story of my brush with death at the hands of Karen would be one I'd carry with me forever. It was a story of caution, of the unpredictable chaos that could erupt from the most benign of circumstances. And above all, it was a testament to the unpredictable nature of people, the way fear could twist them into something unrecognizable, something dangerous. I closed my eyes, not in rest, but in resignation. The day had started as just another page in the book of my life, but it had turned into a chapter I would never forget. The world outside continued on, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded by the lake, to the battle that had been waged within the sterile walls of the hospital room. In the end, it was just me, my thoughts, and the stark realization that the line between safety and peril was as thin as the needle of an EpiPen, now resting uselessly in a police evidence bag. The universe might have its twisted sense of humor, but today, I wasn't laughing. Karen really took things to a whole new level with her misunderstanding. It's scary to think how something so innocent like an EpiPen can be mistaken for a weapon. Glad the person is okay and that Karen is facing charges. People really need to be more informed and understanding. Stay safe, everyone! My best friend Holly and I found ourselves in a perplexing situation during a marine biology field course when our roommate's unbearable odor threatened to ruin the experience. Little did we know that confronting her about it would lead to accusations of bullying and a downward spiral of events. Here's how it all went down. My best friend Holly and I understand and empathize with the fact that showering may be a sensory issue for some people, including our friend Chloe. However, when Chloe joined us on a marine biology field course for a week sharing a room with 2 other people, she failed to inform us about her bathing habits. We had 6 months' notice about the trip and were all friends prior to it. Normally, Chloe takes a bath once every 10 days and is bathed by her boyfriend at home. Unfortunately, we were not given any prior indication that she would not be showering or brushing her teeth throughout the entire duration of the trip. It is important to note that marine biology involves physically demanding activities such as standing on the beach and being in the ocean. Additionally, we had to walk for miles every day to reach these beaches. If Chloe had been using a strip baby wipe to wash every evening, the smell wouldn't have reached this point. But my God, you guys, the smell was absolutely awful. It was a combination of onions, vinegar, and body odor. It was so bad that I actually threw up twice because of it. In fact, it was the worst smell from something living that I've ever encountered. After 4 days of walking and climbing rock pools, the smell became unbearable. Even our other friends who walked past the room would gag. I'm not exaggerating. Instead of using antiperspirant deodorant, she used Impulse body spray, a perfume, under her arms and on her feet, which only made the smell even worse. To make matters worse, there was an outbreak of bacterial meningitis in our class while we were away. It was only at this point that we asked her to shower. We asked her to shower not only to reduce the risk of infection, but also because of the smell. Although we were not fully aware of the details of this illness and how it spreads, we wanted to be as clean as possible after being in close contact with our classmates all day. We treated it as a serious matter. Initially, we asked her nicely, mentioning the room's smell and suggesting that if we all showered, unaware of her sensory issue at this point, it would improve the situation for everyone. Holly and I showered, but Chloe left the room to see some of her friends, which left us completely baffled. The following day, we asked less politely because the smell had become overpowering. Chloe walked out of the room and returned 5 minutes later with one of our university lecturers. She had spoken to the lecturer and accused us of bullying her. Additionally, she made an anonymous submission to our university's drama Facebook page, censoring specific locations, expressing concerns about privacy, and mentioning a person named Tyler, who had taken it upon themselves to find out which university she attends. We found this behavior concerning and creepy. If you want to go on this trip, don't. I was bullied so much I cried every night and the staff did nothing. I know the 2 individuals who did it will see this post, and here is my message to you both. My family and I aren't happy, and we will be taking this matter to the police for bullying and to the university for non-academic misconduct. We are at university now. You would think people would have matured, but apparently not. Bullying is serious. We were completely shocked by this. She had not been crying every night, or at least not that we noticed, nor did we give her a reason to cry every night. The only thing we can possibly think of, after checking with our other friends, was the mention of the smell and the fact that she needs to shower. It hurts us that this has upset her so much, but our point is, if you know you are going away for a week and do not plan on showering, or if you know you have difficulty doing so, wouldn't you warn your roommates? Plan to have a wipe wash, which she admitted she is fine to do. If we had known about the terrible personal hygiene of this 21-year-old individual, there is no way we would have agreed to share a room with her. So, am I the jerk? We want to ensure there's no misunderstanding about recent events. Our intention was never to exclude anyone. In fact, we welcomed her into our group, inviting her to join us at the pub and for other activities. The unfortunate incident involving gagging was carried out by others, and we do not condone such behavior. We've tried to maintain a friendship despite these challenges. When addressing the odor issue, we approached it with sensitivity, hinting at a collective effort to freshen up without singling anyone out. Holly and I are now back home, prioritizing cleanliness and comfort in our own space. Holly's stance is straightforward. She values simplicity and peace in her life and believes in clear communication, especially regarding shared accommodations. Regarding the message from Chloe, we're open to discussing any inaccuracies she believes exist in the account of events. We genuinely sought advice to gain perspective and ensure our actions were reasonable. After being blocked and facing potential repercussions that could affect my academic standing, I seek guidance on navigating this situation. In response to a comment, I shared our history of supporting Chloe against bullying and our hope that rooming together would strengthen our bond. I've been advised to develop assertiveness, and we've discussed the matter with a lecturer, who confirmed that the situation seems to have been exaggerated and that Chloe's threats appear to lack substance. The lecturer also informed us that Chloe had the option of a private room, but chose not to take it. We're now awaiting further information from the faculty regarding this issue. Chloe has chosen to distance herself, which is disheartening. We're moving forward, focusing on our upcoming test and hoping for resolution and understanding. In hindsight, it is clear that the situation could have been handled with more sensitivity and understanding. While the smell was undoubtedly unpleasant and had a significant impact on the living conditions during the marine biology field course, it is important to approach such matters with empathy and respect for individual circumstances. My parents don't like my boyfriend, and they gave me an ultimatum. Little did I know that this ultimatum would lead to a series of emotional manipulation, guilt-tripping, and a heart-wrenching decision that would change my life forever. Here's how it all went down. I'll try to make a long story short. I am an only child, and my current boyfriend and I have been dating for 6 years, starting when I was 19 and he was 20. We met at junior college, and after that we attended different UCs within an hour of each other. My parents met him early on when we all had dinner together, and everything seemed to go well. However, when we went to his parents' house, which is about 2 hours away from my parents', my mom expressed her hurt feelings that we didn't come to visit them as well. I explained that the purpose of that weekend was for me to meet his family, but my mom still felt somewhat betrayed. Fast forward, my parents invited me and my boyfriend to our cabin. We took my car because it was already loaded with laundry. When we arrived, my dad pulled me aside and expressed his disapproval that I drove and that we used my car. He believed that he's the man, he should be driving. This incident set a sour tone for the rest of the visit. Additionally, during our time at the cabin, my boyfriend wore a sweatshirt with his hood up because it was cold in Tahoe during the winter. To this day, my parents consider this behavior weird, rude, and one of the reasons they don't like him. As our relationship continues, it's evident that my parents don't approve of my boyfriend. However, they can't provide valid or justifiable reasons for their disapproval. They claim that he's not a good fit for the family, but they don't explicitly tell me to stop dating him since I'm an adult. Instead, they insist that I keep my relationship with him separate from my relationship with them. They don't want to hear about him, and he's not welcome at their house or cabin. It's important to note that he has never cheated on me, abused me, or had any drug problems. Nothing that a normal parent would consider problematic. Eventually, my parents gave me an ultimatum. They told me that if I continued to date him, it would eventually come down to choosing between him and them. They even went as far as to say that he would never become an attorney, which is his career aspiration, implying that he wouldn't achieve much at all. After completing my undergraduate studies, I started working at a financial firm while my boyfriend graduated from UC Berkeley and got accepted into a law school in another state. Despite the distance, we remained committed to each other and decided to continue the relationship until he finished law school and returned to California. My boyfriend has recently graduated from law school, moved back home, and passed the bar exam. He secured a contract since last year and will start working in October. My parents were aware of these plans. After being together for 6 years, I informed my parents that we will be moving in together. Shortly after, my mom sent me a disapproving text stating that this decision would exclude her and my dad from my future. She emphasized their love for me but made it clear that they couldn't be a part of my life if I chose to be with my boyfriend. I expressed my confusion and told them that I would never understand. Since then, they have sent me more text messages expressing their sadness and claiming that they feel like they're losing their daughter. They simultaneously acknowledge that it's my choice and my fault. I suggested that my boyfriend and I come over to talk in person instead of discussing these matters through texts. But I made it clear that I wouldn't tolerate patronizing or belittling behavior. In response, my parents insisted on seeing me face to face but stated that my boyfriend is not allowed to join. My boyfriend even called my father on the night of the initial text to try and initiate a conversation or arrange a meeting to address any legitimate concerns. However, my father didn't answer and only responded over a week later via text, admitting that they've never really liked my boyfriend, expressing a desire to work things out with me alone, and blaming both my boyfriend and me for not addressing these issues earlier. Amongst other unwarranted reasons to dislike my boyfriend, my father once claimed that Berkeley isn't a man's college. When a professor lost my final exam in college, my parents blamed my boyfriend, saying, "This is why we didn't want her to have a boyfriend in college." They've consistently found ways to blame him for everything. The only somewhat valid concern they had was that he wasn't working at the time, but that was because he was in law school. Apparently, marrying someone who will make a lot of money is seen as a bad thing. My boyfriend is genuinely kind, calm, and peaceful, and he loves me more than anything. However, my parents' pride seems to be more important to them than admitting they are wrong and accepting him. I'm left wondering if this situation is normal, or if it's as wrong as it feels to both my boyfriend and me. My boyfriend, my parents, and I all belong to the same race and have somewhat similar financial statuses. I assure you that no important details have been left out. I'm seeking objective feedback, and if there were any additional concerns, my parents would have made them known to me, and I would have included them in this post. After receiving more hurtful texts from my parents stating that they cannot accept my partner, and that his suitability for my family is more important than his suitability for me, I decided to meet with them in person to pick up my legal documents. They made it clear that my boyfriend was not welcome, and that this was a family matter they wanted to discuss with me alone. Clear manipulation, obviously. So I went alone. I knew what I thought and how I felt, and I was confident in what I planned to say. It was strange walking into my parents' house and feeling like I was meeting strangers. It felt like going through a breakup via text message after a 26-year-long relationship, and then having to go to my ex's house to pick up my belongings and memories. Except that ex is my parents. After approximately an hour of casual conversation, we transitioned into the main discussion regarding the issue at hand. Earlier that week, they had sent me a message stating, "We don't expect to change your mind, we just want to talk." However, it was evident that this in-person meeting was a final attempt to persuade me to see things from their perspective. They launched multiple attacks on my boyfriend from various angles. My dad stating that he's not a man's man, my dad expressing that I don't respect him, my dad declaring I hate him, he's taking away the most precious thing in our life. How could you not hate someone like that? And even physically threatening him at one point. My mom either agreed or added small remarks and reminders about things she disliked about him, some of which I mentioned in my previous post when I met his family and my parents were not present. She also mentioned that she didn't like that I initiated the conversation with my boyfriend instead of him reaching out to me. You understand the gist. It was a complete attack on my boyfriend. They accused me of denying them a son-in-law and claimed he was selfish for not ending our relationship years ago when he realized my parents didn't approve of him. They even made unfounded comments such as, "I don't even know if he has any friends." Seriously, Mom and Dad, of course you don't know anything about him because you've made me keep my relationship a secret for 6 years. But I digress. The conversation continued for 3 hours, during which I only spoke for about 5 minutes, with my heart rate constantly elevated at 150. Thanks for the reminder, Apple Watch. In the end, I had to inform them that my boyfriend and I had already signed a lease and moved in together before this meeting, amidst all the hurtful texts. Nothing they said was going to change my mind, and they even acknowledged that. So we took the plunge and made the move the weekend prior to this meeting. Prior to the move, my commute was around 30 minutes, and it remains the same after the move. The only difference is that we now reside in the same city where my boyfriend, who is a new attorney with long working hours, works. Believe me, I had specific criteria before making this move, such as safety, in-unit washer and dryer, secure parking, etc. And it's only for a year or two while we save money to purchase a home. Contrary to my parents' belief, I am capable of making rational decisions. First, I inform them that we have signed the lease and provide the location, hoping to soften the blow of blatantly disobeying them. However, they immediately start criticizing me, saying things like, of course, making it easy on him again. They perceive my frequent visits to my boyfriend's house as me catering to him, disregarding the fact that we were uncomfortable being together at their house, which eventually led to him being essentially banned from visiting. Instead of understanding that this move is about compromise in a relationship, they view it as me being an infatuated and foolish teenager. They proceed to lecture me about how brutal my commute is going to be, insisting that I am lying to myself if I believe otherwise. In reality, I have already been commuting for a week and know that it is not any worse. In fact, it is a more pleasant drive. It becomes clear that I cannot gradually adjust to the situation. I have to confront them head-on because they are completely mistaken in trying to convince me that I am clueless. Frustrated, I respond, I've already been doing it for a week. We moved in last weekend. They are completely stunned. LOL, I mean, you guys said you weren't trying to change my mind, so why are you so surprised that I made my decision? My mom starts crying. My dad keeps saying, "You messed up, kid." It's around 10 p.m. now, and since they know I have a slightly longer drive home, they're rushing me out the door so I can get home before it gets too late. My mom gives me this big, sobbing hug. By this point, I've run out of tears. I've been crying throughout the entire conversation, but now I'm just done with all the nonsense. My dad, who rarely even tells me he loves me, gives me this awkward, desperate hug too, that just makes me roll my eyes. I get in the car and drive home, feeling completely exhausted and confused. Honestly, they did a good job of making me doubt my own thoughts and choices again. But when I get home, I immediately spill everything they said to my boyfriend. He's not surprised, but as I mentioned in my last post, he remains neutral in all of this and doesn't say anything negative about them. He just holds me close and lets me vent. Another topic that came up during our 3-hour discussion was my anxiety. I had previously told them that I believe they are a major source of it, both now and during my childhood. Previous discussions have always led nowhere, with statements like, "You had it so easy, we don't ask much of you," etc. Clearly they haven't been listening to me. So I brought it up again in this discussion, explaining how my parents are a significant source of my anxiety, and how my boyfriend is a calming presence in all of it. I expressed my gratitude for having such a supportive partner. My dad yells at me, denying that he ever laid a hand on me and insisting that he was physically disciplined as a child. He refuses to acknowledge that he and my parents could have anything to do with my anxiety. He even tells me, "You need therapy." Well, yes, Dad, thank you. I definitely do, and also screw you. All of this to say, the answer you've all been waiting for is that I moved in with my boyfriend, keeping my mom and dad at a distance, and I have started therapy. It's a process of unpacking and learning from 26 years of emotional abuse and narcissism, but I'm working on it. The guilt tripping and lack of boundaries have been a constant presence for as long as I can remember. I know my situation isn't as bad as some others, but it's worse than others as well. To all those out there in similar situations, I encourage you to seek therapy. It can be incredibly helpful. There is so much behavior to unlearn and grow from. Even if you don't think it's that bad and that you're doing fine, consider seeing a therapist if you can. Your abusers have learned behaviors too. They have learned how to manipulate and control you, whether intentionally or not. They know how to make you do what they want and think what they think. And then they know how to make you feel terrible for doing anything differently. Seek guidance from trusted family and friends, seek therapy, and above all, trust yourself. I still get very emotional about all of this. It's still a fresh wound. I mourn the relationship I had with my mom and the one I will never have with my dad. My health is definitely suffering at the moment due to all the stress, but I'm working on restoring my mental health, and I know my physical health will follow. Breaking the cycle is difficult and terrifying. It's like being a crate-trained puppy forever and finally being allowed to go outside. But the outside world is unknown. The crate is all you know, and even though you understand that the crate is confining and freedom awaits you, everything outside is unfamiliar, uncertain, and frightening. You know what's behind you, and it's tempting to want to run back to it. But no matter what lies ahead, it's better than the crate. The crate is not living for yourself, it's living for someone else. So go out there and create your own life. I hope this story can help someone else out there like me who is seeking validation about their feelings and situation. The ultimatum given by the parents and the emotional manipulation they have employed have caused distress and confusion for the individual. It is important to acknowledge the courage and strength shown by the individual in standing up for their own happiness and making difficult decisions for their own well-being. Seeking therapy and setting boundaries are positive steps towards healing and personal growth. This story serves as a reminder of the importance of self-validation, seeking support, and breaking free from toxic relationships in order to create a life that is authentic and fulfilling. I never expected my life to take such a dramatic turn after my wife's passing, but when I found myself falling for the young woman who came to help with my kids, I knew things were about to get complicated. Little did I know that her abusive ex-boyfriend's release from prison would set off a chain of events that would test our strength and love. Here's how it all went down. This is all a very complicated and sad situation. About 4 years ago, my wife and partner of 8 years passed away due to complications after the birth, very rare, of our second son. I was deployed at the time and completely devastated. After flying home, I felt that nothing would make me happy again. My sons are great, now 6 and 4. but overwhelming, so I asked a sister of one of my Marine buddies, Cass, to help out. She had been friends with my wife, but not close friends, and she agreed in exchange for a place to stay. At the time, Cass was only 20 years old and had a significant amount of debt due to her extremely abusive ex-boyfriend, who she had finally left about 3 months earlier. During the first few weeks of her helping out with the boys, she asked to borrow money to see a doctor due to shaking hands, no insurance. I happily obliged. She was an angel, taking care of all the cooking and cleaning and keeping my young family together. It turned out that she had developed some sort of neurological disorder, probably brought on by repeated abuse. At the time, it seemed simple. I had good insurance, she needed health care. I never thought I'd be able to move on from my wife, and she was afraid of intimacy. I agreed that I would marry her, but keep our platonic relationship. She promised not to burden me with her debt, and we had a prenuptial agreement and all. I know that this is a fraud of the government, hence the throwaway, but we were both so damaged and needed somebody, if not intimately. The past 3 years have been about as good as expected, if not better. Cass is great, better than great. She keeps the house spotless, has food ready every night when I get home, and has been working overnight as a baker, and almost has her debt paid off. Her condition has improved greatly, also, due to the excellent medical care she was able to receive. With the boys, she is a saint. She tells them about their mother, shows them pictures, takes them to fun places, and even taught them how to read. Of course, the 6-year-old just finished kindergarten, but my 4-year-old is going to be the smartest kid in his class next year. Sometimes the 4-year-old calls her mommy, but she shushes him and reminds him that her name is Cass, and that mommy is the angel whose picture is above the fireplace. Once her debt is fully paid off, the kids are in school, and she saves up a bit of money. She is going to go into a nursing program. Our relationship is still platonic, but very caring. I've cried on her shoulders more times than I can count, and she's done the same. One night, I was very stressed out and yelled at her about something pretty inconsequential. She had taken my sons to see Santa without me. She, of course, became quite frightened, but we worked it out, and I even offered to pay for her to see a counselor. She didn't. That was 2 years ago, and we have had little fights ever since, but have been able to work through them. She seems to understand me whenever I'm hurt, upset, or angry, and is calming in a way that I can't explain. The problem is that I think I might be falling for her. I've been noticing little things. Her scent, her smile, her laugh, the way she smiles with her eyes when she sees me, how much my boys love her. Not to mention that she's gorgeous, hardworking, and one of the strongest people I've ever encountered. A few nights ago, I almost kissed her after we had put the boys to bed, and her hugs goodbye have started lasting a little bit longer. The other day, she was taking a nap in my bed. She was washing her sheets, and I wanted to join her. Not have sex with her, just lay with her and hold and kiss her. I don't know what to do, or how to even bring this up. It's been 4 years since my wife died. I can only think of a quote from A Song of Fire and Ice books in which a character says that when the sun is set, no candle can replace it, meaning that since his true love has died, nobody could replace her. That's how I used to feel. But there have been days where my thoughts have been occupied with Cass, and I haven't even thought about my wife. I feel bad about it, and I still miss her, but I never thought that I'd be able to move on. I feel guilty and disloyal. At the same time, I want her. Not just sexually or physically, I want to be romantically intimate with her, not just as friends. I don't know how to bring it up. I don't want to scare her or make her uncomfortable, but this is becoming more difficult than I could have ever imagined. I was thinking about asking her to get dinner, just the two of us, and bringing it up. But what if she refuses? How can I gauge her interest? If it means anything, the other day she was having a hard time with the boys. They were restless and being out of hand. So I brought her home some of her favorite flowers. She was extremely excited and gave me another lasting hug and a quick kiss on the lips. I was taken aback, but she happily finished dinner and put the flowers in a vase. What does this mean? So I finally made the decision to confess. I called her favorite fancy restaurant and made a reservation. Her brother agreed to babysit and offered his place for us to stay tonight if she isn't interested or feels uncomfortable. She even sent me a picture of the check this morning, showing that she paid off her debt. With our 3-year anniversary coming up next week, it's the perfect time. I plan to tell her during dessert, but I'm incredibly nervous. Last night started off chaotic. Our younger son claimed he had eaten a giant fuzzy spider, which worried Cass and made her want to take him to the hospital, even though he was perfectly fine. Her brother, whom we'll call Joe, assured her that he would take care of it and practically pushed her out of the house to celebrate getting out of debt. She didn't seem enthusiastic about going at all, and it made me even more nervous. So we got to the restaurant pretty early, but luckily they had a table. She ordered wine, which was odd, because she hasn't drank much since she broke up with her ex. But I figured it was a time to celebrate, made small talk for a while, but it seemed forced, and I knew that I had to tell her soon. So, before the entrees even came, I said that I had something to talk to her about. She didn't smile and told me that she knew. Joe told her. And my goodness, my heart almost stopped. That jerk. I hurriedly told her that I was so sorry. I didn't want her to find out that way. I wanted to tell her myself. She shook her head, frowned, and said that it was okay. She just wanted me to be happy, and that I deserved it. I told her that I didn't want to stress her out or make her uncomfortable, but I just needed to tell her and see how she felt, and that it was completely up to her. She gave me a look and said that it actually was up to me, and just to do what made me happy. She said that she was probably going to move out after her program ended, and promised to stay out of the way until then. It was then that I realized something was a bit off, and asked what the heck Joe had told her. She said that he told her I wanted to take her out to dinner, to tell her that I had started developing feelings for a girl, and wanted to ask Cass if it would be okay if I asked this girl out. It was then I realized that Joe had set me up for the most climactic pickup line ever to exist. Our entrees came. I had shrimp and pesto gnocchi, and she had crab legs for you detail lovers. And I explained that yes, I had started developing feelings for a girl. I just didn't want it to mess up what we had. She said that it wouldn't mess anything up. She still loved the boys and would take care of them and the house. I continued to then explain that I wasn't going to ask the girl on a date, though, and she asked incredulously, why not? Then I dropped my smoothest line I've ever dropped. Because I'm already on a date with her, right? Thanks, Joe, because he must know about your planned movie and really wanted that line. She gave me this look that she gives my sons when they tell her things like, I'm going to the mall by myself, or I have a girlfriend named Tammy. Then she looked away, smiled, and shook her head and asked, really? I nodded and told her that I cared about her more than anybody else alive, other than my sons, that I loved our family, and that I had fallen in love with her. She then took a drink of wine, rolled her eyes, and said, about freaking time, Alex. And I'll never forget what happened next. Maybe it was a faux pas, but I leaned across the table and kissed her, spilling her wine. But neither of us cared, and we kissed for about a minute before she told me to get off her before her crab legs got cold. This was joking, but not. You'd have to know her. After leaving the restaurant, we got ice cream and sat around and kissed some more before heading home. Joe was sitting on our couch watching one of those VH1 dating shows with a big grin on his face, and Cass ran in, screaming at him that he ruined everything and that she was going to have to move in with Mom now. We let him believe it for about 5 seconds before bursting into laughter. He shook my hand and told me that the boys were sleeping and left. I picked Cass up, kissed her, and carried her to my room where we, well, made out for like 2 hours and snuggled a lot. She isn't ready for anything else but emphasized yet. I'll give her all the time in the world. At one point, the youngest son came in because of a nightmare and brought his dog, a golden retriever puppy, and claimed that the doggy was scared. So we, of course, let him in. I woke up early to make everyone breakfast, and of course, deliver. And I'm about to go and kiss my wife goodbye and ask my boss for the second part of the day off, so that I can spend more time with her while the boys are at school and preschool. Everything has been going well lately, though. It was a bit strange at first explaining it to our friends and family, but most of them had already figured it out, including my sons, who act as if nothing has changed. I'm pretty sure the little ones knew all along. Anyway, last night when I came home, Cass seemed off. Dinner was burnt, which is not a big deal since I'm not a great cook, but it's unusual for her. And she was drinking, lightly, only 1 or 2 glasses of wine. I asked her what was wrong, and obviously I was concerned. She told me that her ex-boyfriend, a jerk, 30 years old, male, was released on parole last week. I was shocked because she should have been able to testify at his parole hearing, I believe. Apparently the crime he was imprisoned for was unrelated to the abuse, which I had always assumed was the reason. But Cass had been, 1, assured that it would put him away for at least a decade, and 2, too afraid to testify against him or press charges. Apparently, he had been arrested for a felony. While he was being held, he asked her to post bail. However, instead of helping him, she asked my first wife for assistance in moving out and moving on. I'm unsure of what to do in this situation. I don't believe we have any legal means to put him back in prison. She is aware that she should have gone to the police and is now feeling guilty and upset about it. I want to assure her safety, and if he tries to contact her, I will take legal action to prevent him from even touching her. I have taken the day off work and have promised that my friends will be stopping by throughout the day, even when I return to work. However, I'm uncertain how to make her feel safe. I have reached out to my lawyer about filing a restraining order, and he said it should not be too difficult, but she is emotionally distressed. I just don't know how to make her believe that she is safe. While I doubt this person will come around, I am prepared to take action if he does. Things became difficult for a while when her ex was released from prison last year. She had feared that he would contact her, until he actually did. I can vividly remember that night. Someone rang our doorbell and our oldest son answered. The visitor asked for Cass. She instructed the boys to go upstairs, gave me a meaningful look, and I understood. However, she didn't appear frightened. The scoundrel apologized, begged for forgiveness, and requested a second chance. Cass showed incredible bravery. I wanted to harm him, but she firmly declined and asked him to leave. Eventually, he did, although he made a few more attempts to contact her before we obtained a restraining order against him. The last I heard, he had moved to live with his dad upstate or something. Around the same time, her brother Joe was in a serious car accident and had to temporarily move in with us. He's a wonderful person and one of my closest friends, so we didn't mind, but it was a stressful period. About 7 or 8 months ago, we finally, consummated our marriage, so to speak. The boys are doing great and are very happy. Cass landed a pretty good job, although I think she's working too much overtime, and she loves it. We're expecting our first child in February and couldn't be more thrilled. You could say that life is going well. I'll be available for a few more hours if you have any questions. The pregnancy was challenging, and Cass has decided that she doesn't want any more children. I suppose 3 is enough. But everything turned out great. Little Therese was born, weighed 9 pounds, and she's as bald as I am. She's much easier than the boys were. She hardly ever cries and is the most photogenic baby ever. Our youngest son is completely smitten and always tries to help. It's not as cute as you might imagine. It's important to create a supportive and understanding environment as you deal with the emotional challenges and safety concerns regarding her ex-boyfriend's release. Seeking legal advice and taking precautions, like getting a restraining order, can help ensure her safety. Just be patient, empathetic, and continuously reassure Cass that you're there for her and committed to keeping her safe. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now or you're definitely the jerk.